this time as we're getting ready to resume our program in 1 minute. Thank you so much.
Life is too short to be trying to play some games. Now take some time and think about if it's really worth losing me. Why must it be this way? Why do you have to play with my mind all the time? Help me sing it. All I really want is for me to be happy. Oh, just help me sing it. All I really want is for me to be happy. All I really want is for me to be happy. Oh, you know I won't know. All I really want is for me to be happy. All I really want is for me to be happy. I don't wanna have to worry about nothing no more. All I really want is for me to be happy. All I really want is for me to be happy. Said I wanna be, said I wanna be, said I wanna be.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back. Now at this time, we want to welcome to the stage Melanie Campbell, our President and CEO, NCBCP National Convener. Let's put our hands together and receive her at this time as she returns.
I'm going to ask Reverend Siobhan to just sit down and come right up here and bless the food. Amen. Go ahead. Hey, how y'all doing? Hey. We are going to have Reverend Siobhan Arlen Bradley to give us a President and CEO of the National Council of Negro Women, who will bring remarks later, who came all the way from New York City. Correct? I think I will.
No,
You've probably been in like 5 different other states by now. Who's going to bless the food that you have already eaten?
Let's pray, y'all. God, we thank you. We thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to gather as sisters in this space. Lord, it's hard, but you're still in control. And we are grateful for this food we're about to receive, for the nourishment and strength of our body. Thank you for sisterhood today, because God, it has gotten us through. And let this meal nourish our hearts, our minds, and our bodies, but not our waistlines. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Hallelujah. Oh my gosh. We're going to move right along because we are a little bit having some time challenges. We're not late, we're just time challenged. Say time challenged. Okay, with that in mind, we're going to bring up one of our board members and good sister friend, Dr. Elsie Scott, Secretary of the Board of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. She's also the founding director of the Ronald Walters Leadership and Public Policy Center at Howard University. Go ahead, HU, y'all do that. Okay. Come on, Doc, to bring greetings from the board.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to bring you greetings on behalf of the board, the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, out of which the Black Women's Roundtable has developed. But we know that this would not have happened had not it been for our fearless leader, I was about to call you doctor, Melanie Campbell, and just give her a round of applause, because many of you have been with us since the founding of BWR, and you see it gets bigger and better every year. And so we are so grateful for so many of you who have come back and forth to be a part of this organization. And we would not have been able to do it without the leadership of Melanie Campbell. And let me just say another thing. We just celebrated, what was it, your 30th year, 30 years of doing this work. So those of you who didn't make it to the party, like I didn't, let's just say, we hip hip hooray for Mel. It's when I first became very active on the board, and Dr. Height was still with us. And Melanie was studying under the feet of Dr. Height. And so when Dr. Height died, some people did not want to include a woman in the Big Eight or whatever they call themselves going to the White House. And we pushed to make certain that Melanie was at all of those meetings. And she became the representative of women at the White House. So we've had a good session this morning. A few things that I just want to highlight, and then I'll sit down. Is that as people were talking today, some people have talked about research. We had great report from our research team, and we are learning a lot about how to be strategic as we move forth in these trying times. And so we want to thank Dr. Avis, the rest of the crew, for the research that they're doing, and we'll be able to share that research. Many people are asking for copies. We can be able to share that after the conference. We also had a very good session on health. And Cleola mentioned that she was the only doctor, non-doctor, medical person on the panel, but she made it real. And one of the things that Cleola mentioned that made me think about my aunt is she talked about not being how good you look, but it's how good you feel. And so we used to do health programs when I was at CBCF, and we did a lot of what we call Black Health Empowerment. And I was talking to my aunt, who was 90-some years old, about it. And she said to me that everybody talks about how good she looked to be 90 plus. And she said, so she was going to the doctor, she wasn't feeling well. And by the time she got to the third doctor, there was everybody in the office coming out. Oh, look at Miss Williams. She looks so good. And she said, stop focusing on how good you look and focus on how well you feel.
Thank you, Dr. Elsie. And now, say it costs. It costs. And we are grateful that we were able to have great sponsors who are not just sponsors, but they're partners. Because you can be, anybody can be a sponsor, but in these times, especially this past year, you find out who your real partners are. And so I want to thank all of our partners. And one of them who is a newer partner with the National Coalition and our Black Women's Roundtable is Gilead Sciences. And so to bring, I'm going to say partner greetings on behalf of Gilead Sciences is Kel Green, Regional Director, Capital Area of Gilead Sciences. Oh, you're over here, sorry.
I didn't. I know, and I can't dance. So, good afternoon, everyone, and I hope everyone is enjoying their lunch this afternoon. I'm humbled to be called a partner in this fight. I also proudly come from a woman. I got a lot of strong women around me, and so I'm also humbled to be in this room. So good afternoon again, and I'm offering greetings from Gilead Sciences and from my colleagues and I. And so thank you, Melanie, for that extremely warm welcome. And I have my phone here in front of me because I don't want to mess this up, because Black women also make me nervous. So my full name is Kel Green, and so that means I can't commit any crimes and get away with it. It's, one syllable K-E-L. And I am honored and privileged to be here on behalf of the company. I'd like to extend a huge thank you again to the leadership team of the National Coalition of Black Civic Participation, the National Black Women's Roundtable, and especially to Melanie Campbell for her 30 years of service and impact in the lives of Black women and girls. So I want to pause here so we can give you another round of applause. Gilead Sciences, the company who I'm, I guess, fortunate to be employed at, is a global biopharmaceutical company based in Northern California. I was drawn to Gilead for a number of reasons around its bold ambitions to create a healthier world for all people. I've had the pleasure of working both US-based and globally with the organization in my most recent role before coming back to the US as a general manager in serving the Caribbean and South American markets, so that the language around access, equitable access, and how HIV, oncology, and other disease states, and diabetes as well, those cardiovascular illnesses are impacting us adversely, and Black women more adversely, is near and has been and continues to be near and dear to my heart. For more than 35 years, this organization has been pioneering transformative therapies to improve the care for millions of patients across HIV, viral hepatitis, COVID, and other disease state areas. As you know, as some of you may know, and we need to talk about it a lot, nearly 40% of all new HIV cases in the US are within Black and brown communities, despite us being only 14% of the population. And that's exacerbated among the individuals who are assigned female at birth amongst Black women. Black women are nearly 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer and 28% more likely to die from the disease compared to non-Hispanic white women, and that doesn't sit well with me or the organization. For most of us, these aren't just stats, but these are numbers representing people that we know and love, our mothers, sisters, aunties, grandmothers, and new friends and partners to us at Gilead. That's why we are committed to expanding access to our innovative medicines to help those who need it most, but our work doesn't stop there. We know innovation is only the first step, and I think Melanie was looking at my notes, because partnership ensures impact. And I think we heard the doctor say it earlier in terms of 20% of your life expectancy is when you see your doctor, but the other 80% of those social determinants of health, we need to be anchored around that here and when we leave this engagement. So what's our call to action? Gilead certainly recognizes the important role that each of us and you play in changing patient outcomes across the country. Policy, partnership, and community action is a powerful lever for sustainable change, and all of us can remove barriers to care. Now is the time to press forward and do all that we can do, all in the name of saving and protecting lives. Earlier today, you heard from one of my colleagues, Justin, and later today and tomorrow, we'll hear from the fabulous Trina Scott, who's probably looking at me like, Kel, get off the stage, and partner, Reverend Deborah Fraser-Howe, founder of Choose Healthy Life. I encourage all of you to attend these sessions, don't fall asleep after this meal, to learn concretely what we all can do collectively to end HIV and those other disease states that we mentioned in our community as partners. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn it back over. Oh, I'm sorry. So kindly.
Thank you. That chair, ooh. You good? Hey, you okay? Still got a little challenge over here with these steps, y'all. Thank you. Can we give our partner, Gilead Sciences, another round of thank you? Coalition work is real. So I also sit, especially with my sister being in the room, I want to, because I am a member of the board too, right? I want to ask the National Council of Negro Women members to just stand up in the room. And I believe I'm an honorary member now. Coalition of 100 Black Women, I think, are in the room somewhere. And another organization that is all about coalition is the Black Women's Agenda. And Sister Gwen Hess is in the room, President CEO. I'm going to ask her to come up. One of the things I moved and talked about 30 years ago, I was very, very active in Atlanta, but I wasn't active in really doing a lot of walking the halls of power in the same sense. And one of the first organizations that I met was the Black Women's Agenda. And I'm blanking just because I had it in my head and I lost it, who was the president at the time, which had been 1995. So if anybody who remember that, who that president was. It may have been Dolly Adams, in 1995. And one of the first organizations that I went to Capitol Hill with was Black Women's Agenda. And that's how I learned about walking the halls of Congress. And then I met Dr. Dorothy Irene Height through Cora Berry and learned what the power is of collective Black women's leadership. And so I told Gwen, thank you, you're not just a sponsor, you're a partner as well. And ask her just to bring some sponsor greetings on behalf of Black Women's Agenda. And we just want to say we love you very much.
Love you back. Thank you. Good afternoon. How is everyone? Excellent. Well, as Melanie said, I am Guinevere Catchings Hess, President of Black Women's Agenda, and it is my honor to bring greetings to you on this 15th Women of Power, because we all know that Melanie is a woman of power. You know, someone once said that we judge ourselves by what we think we can do, and others judge us by what we've done. So not only will we be judged by what we've done, but what we will have to continue to do, because the work is not over and still needs to be done. We can only do it together, and everyone is important, and everyone can do something to help, because God knows we need it. Thank you, Melanie. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the conference, and we wish you well, always.
Thank you so much.
Be a better man with the kindness that we give. I know we can make it. I know that we can. I know darn well we can work it out. Yes we can. I know we can. Yes we can. Oh why can't we? If we want it, yes we can. I know we can make it work. I know we can make it if we try. Oh, yes we can. I know we can. Yes we can. Great gosh almighty. Yes we can. I know we can. Children, the little children of the world, 'cause they are strong, there's hope for the future of the little bitty boys and girls. We got to make this land a better land than the world in which we live. And we gotta help each man be a better man with the kindness that we give. I know we can make it. I know that we can. I know darn well we can work it out. Yes we can. I know we can. Yes we can. Oh why can't we? If we want it, yes we can. I know we can make it work. I know that we can make it if we try. Great gosh almighty.
Can y'all hear me okay? So we're going to give you a few minutes to enjoy your meal. So we're going to do the woman on the street conversation. Is that all right while we're eating? And so one of the people that you keep hearing that name, right? And that name is Deborah Fraser House, right? So I'm gonna start over here just to ask you. They keep talking about you, and I met you this summer. And but I say, well, I met you in the formal way. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
With all the work you've done in making sure our people live healthy lives. What do you think about what you heard in this conversation?
I loved everything that I heard, Melanie. I'm just so happy to be here with you. I've known you from the Dorothy Height days.
Yes, ma'am.
I've long time. And as soon as they told me, when Gilead called me and told me that it was your conference, I said I dropped everything to be there with Melanie. There's no question about it, because she's the leader that we need for this time. And I'm so glad that all of you are here. I heard a lot of things this morning, and so many of my friends were sitting up there, Chiquita and Gigi, and it's amazing how many people you know 30, 40 years, and you try to figure out, I've known these people all this time, and it's such a beautiful thing. So I want to just say to you, we've already won. The fact that we're still here and we're all together means that we've already won. Aquarius from Gilead sent me an article, said that President Trump said that he's being attacked by fat black women. And I said to him, he's absolutely right. And hopefully we're going to send him to the nut house, because we're fat and we're black and we're proud of it, and we're going to drive him crazy. And that's going to be our job from here on out, because we cannot lose, because we're still here and we got this together. All we need to do is keep moving forward. Take our children with us. Do not stop. Come to things like this with Melanie. Be here with Gwen. Be with Stacy. Be with all of the leaders that you see here. And let's make this thing happen, because we can win. That's why. Now,
Drop the mic. There was no way. Oh, I forgot to ask the question. What? Oh, somebody, you come ask her. You gonna get me in trouble? Mike, he want to ask her a question. No, I'm not gonna ask. You ask the question.
Aquarius Gilmer with Gilead Sciences. Deb, I want to ask you, what is it that St. Peter will say to ask of all of us if we cross those celestial shores?
say that when black people, outside of all other people, when we pass over and we get to the pearly gates and we stand there with St. Peter, and St. Peter, before he lets us in, he says, I'm going to ask you one question and one question alone. And that question is, what have you done with your freedom? And you must be able to live your life right now so that you can answer that question. So keep moving forward so you can answer that question when you get there. God bless you.
Say freedom! Freedom! Freedom is on the line. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I need some help getting up these steps, somebody. I need freedom from falling off these steps. So we're going to keep the program moving. If you all are okay with that, is that all right? And so I think it's not my turn to speak. I think it's the turn back. If you're ready to bring up the next panel, I will say thank you, enjoy your meal, and we're going to continue through the program.
Now we are preparing for our Power Building Roundtable 1. This is the Black Women Leaders in Philanthropy. Now at this time, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to welcome to the stage our moderator, Miss Monica Ray. She serves as the co-chair, DC BWR, President, Congress Heights Partnership. Let's receive her at this time.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. I have the honor of hosting, wow, this chair is low. And I'm 5 foot tall, man. Is that better? I don't want to look really ridiculous. I have the honor of hosting some amazing black women. This panel was about women in philanthropy, and we all know that black women have been in philanthropy long before philanthropy existed. Long before it was ever a sector, black women were already building the framework that sustained our communities. Women like Madam C.J. Walker, who used her economic power to fund education, civil rights organizing, and opportunities for black women when few people would. Mary McLeod Bethune built institutions and helped establish the National Council of Negro Women to ensure that black women had a seat at the table where decisions about our communities were being made. And when Mamie Till Mobley turned unimaginable grief into a national call for justice after the murder of her son, she reminded us that moral courage can mobilize a movement. Alongside leaders like Sora Dorothy Height, these women were not simply recipients of philanthropy, they were architects of it, building networks of care, resources, and institutions that sustained the civil rights movement long before foundations caught up. Today, we have an esteemed panel. Decantee Mintz-Cole. She's the principal and founder of Araminta Advisors, where she advises organizations and leaders on advancing equity, leadership strategy, and inclusive economic opportunity. Prior to launching her firm, she served as executive director of the head of diversity, equity, and inclusion at JP Morgan Chase, one of the largest financial institutions in the world. In that role, she helped shape strategies that connected corporate capital and institutional power to equity-centered initiatives. Today, through Araminta Advisors, she continues to help organizations translate commitments to equity into actionable strategies and measurable impact. Help me welcome Decantee Mintz-Cole. It's very low. Next, we have Dr. Michaela Sherrod. She leads domestic programs at Oxfam America, focused on economic justice, racial equity, and poverty alleviation across the U.S. Her work bridges global insights on inequality with the realities facing communities here at home. Through policy advocacy, movement partnerships, and strategic investments, she works to shift systems that perpetuate poverty and economic injustice. Dr. Sherrod brings a powerful perspective on how philanthropy must move beyond short-term charity to support long-term structural change. Welcome, Dr. Michaela Sherrod. Siobhan Davenport. Siobhan Davenport serves as the program officer for Advancing Girls Fund at the Tides Foundation, where she works to increase investment in girls of color and youth leadership. Her work focuses on ensuring that young women, particularly those of color, have access to resources, leadership development, and platforms to influence the future. Through strategic grant making and movement building, she's helping to shift philanthropy toward a model that recognizes young women as leaders today, not simply leaders of tomorrow. Let's welcome Siobhan Davenport. I'm not sure if Leah is here yet, but I want to tell you a little bit about her in case she's in the room or she should show up. She leads philanthropic strategy for the Executive Leadership Council, an organization dedicated to increasing the number of Black executives in corporate leadership. Her work focuses on mobilizing resources to strengthen leadership pipelines, mentorship networks, and opportunities for Black professionals across industries. She brings a powerful perspective on how philanthropy can support not only community programs, but also the leadership infrastructure needed for long-term systemic change. So let's give it up for Leah Wade. I feel like I'm so far away from you guys. Hi over there. Welcome, welcome. So I want to start by having you guys introduce yourselves, but tell me a little bit about what brought you to philanthropy. And I'll start on the opposite end, way over there, Siobhan.
Can you hear me? Oh, I can hear her now. Thank you so much. You know, I My start in philanthropy really was the model of my paternal grandmother who raised me. And I loved what Melanie Campbell said, that philanthropy really started in the Black community before there was this word. My grandmother was the type of person that when anyone in our community was sick or needed anything, she cooked meals, she took older folks to doctor appointments, and I was her co-pilot, so I was right there with her. She modeled it for me. But what really brought me to Tides Foundation prior to starting this position almost 3 years ago, I was actually working in direct service. I ran an organization in the Washington region that provided leadership and mentorship opportunities for middle and high school girls. And I started working at that organization right before COVID. So when COVID hit, we already knew that the systems that supported our Black and brown girls were not perfect. But when COVID hit, those systems broke. Their education, their health, housing, jobs, economic. And so bringing that organization through COVID and being a support to not just our girls, but to the families that were directly impacted, I wanted to do something more. I said, there's got to be a better way to support our young people who are such dynamic leaders. And so I decided to enter philanthropy to disrupt it. And I bring that point of view of having my grandmother as my first philanthropic leader. I bring the point of view of running an organization that centered girls and leadership. And I bring the point of view of just being a Black woman living in America every single day. And I think that that is important to disrupt how philanthropy views itself and the way that we partner with communities.
Before the next speaker, we have another woman in philanthropy here. Miss Redwood, where are you? From the Ms. Foundation? I'm sorry. We're going to make space for you, ma'am. Thank you for being here. And while she's coming, we'll let our second speaker speak, but I want you to be prepared for the exact same question when you arrive.
Hello? Okay, all right. So thank you so much. It's good to be on this panel, and thank you, Melanie, and all the women, the amazing leadership of the Black Women's Roundtable for inviting me. So, Mikaela Sherrod, and so I am the director of the Resilient Communities and Partnership Program at Oxfam America. We recently changed our name from U.S. Domestic Programs. And the way that I actually got here is pretty interesting. There are a couple of very, very important things that happened in my life. One, I graduated, I'm a scientist by my formal education, and as soon as I left that school, I didn't continue my postdoctoral training because I moved down south and I started working for my mother-in-law, Shirley Sherrod. And Mrs. Sherrod was leading work called the Southern Rural Black Women's Initiative for Economic and Social Justice. And it was a program that expanded, that went across, come on, yes ma'am, welcome. Thank you. So the Southern Rural Black Women's Initiative worked across 3 states, and I was the lead coordinator in Georgia. And with that, what we did is we worked with Black women who were underemployed, unemployed, particularly in rural areas. We had to find ways for them to create jobs, create businesses, and this is something that Black women do all the time. And so for me, coming from the north and then coming down south, having all this, formal education, it was a whole different kind of education for me. It was really an understanding of what it actually looks like when Black women lead, when Black women create, and how to get that done. But it was also about the importance that we had to create the economic opportunities. They weren't being given, and so we had to fight all the systems and everything to create our own. And so that was one of the first experiences that I had. Coming out of that, and that's also where I learned to be an organizer, because that work was just straight organizing, and building and learning about economic justice and what we can do in rural areas, how to create in rural areas. The other part is I started working for a consultancy, Keisha Harris and Associates. And at that time, Keisha Harris, the reason that I worked with Keisha, my a beautiful, beautiful sister, is because we're mission aligned. Is because for her, her whole point and the whole consultancy is about how do we make sure that we're getting resources to our organizations, to Black-led organizations that are doing the work. And so with that, what she did is decided to organize philanthropy. So she established a program called the In Deep Initiative. And so what it did is it took staff at philanthropic organizations and it took them to a process of understanding, you know, racial equity, looking at it in their strategies. How do you have the internal change first, and then what does that look like organizationally? So I was a part of building that. Then she started organizing the presidents of these foundations. And I'm talking Hewlett, I'm talking Packard, I'm talking MacArthur. So she was engaging at all these different levels within philanthropy about what does it look like when you actually trust the organizations, when you reach those organizations on the ground and you resource them. So for me, you know, getting my start working with Black women and understanding what it takes, and I love me some Black women, and then coming into philanthropy and being able to continue that, but to continue it from a racial justice and a racial equity perspective, that was just sort of put me on the path to come to Oxfam. And Oxfam is, to be clear, Oxfam is a nonprofit organization. We're a global nonprofit. But what we do is we use our resources and our proximity in the United States to raise funds for our global work that we do in the most impoverished communities across the world. So we do a lot of humanitarian work. So we do that there, and we also do it here. So for me, I was aligned with the organization because it allowed me to use the resources. I could raise the resources or the organization's resources to support those organizations that are falling under the radar of funders and that need the help. So you didn't have to be a 501c3, but if you have a fiscal sponsor, then my program, we're able to partner with you. So to me, that's where I'm supposed to be.
We're going to go quickly to Decanty, who's going to leave us for another big appointment. So let's go, Decanty.
Well, first, thank you for having me. And we're relaying, but as Black women do, we still get across the finish line. So we will do that. Again, my name is Decanty Mensco. I have an advisory firm called Araminta Advisors. It's named after Araminta Ross, also the birth name of Harriet Tubman. And I advise philanthropy, leaders, nonprofit organizations, local governments on how to build community wealth. And what does that mean? I work with folks like Bloomberg Philanthropies on how they're showing up in cities. I'm supporting states as they think about the use of infrastructure dollars and also how opportunity zones will be leveraged to support our communities as well. And the way I came into philanthropy is by chance. My story starts is that I'm from a refugee family. I'm originally from Liberia, born in Monrovia. Liberia, yes, representing. And when the coup happened, my family fled Liberia. We fled with one overnight suitcase because my parents thought that we would be in the US shortly. They were graduate international students here and thought that it would be a safe place until things settled down. And now, over 40 years later, my family is still here. And in us coming to the US, we were lucky to have a family that housed all four of us, my older brother, my mom and dad, and I was a baby at the time. And I saw how much it meant to my family around finding stable housing, right? And so I actually pursued a career in community development, and particularly working in the communities in which are underserved, where we find immigrant populations, where we find Black people. And through that work, it took me to Detroit at the height of the bankruptcy. And an environment in which many ways people had turned the back on the city and didn't see an opportunity for the revitalization, particularly after the 2008 financial and housing crisis. And it was in that work, working initially as a White House Strong Cities, Strong Communities Fellow, and then as an appointee for the mayor at the time that I started to get really deeply into how do you do transformational economic development work. And JP Morgan Chase was really interested in partnering deeply. And it was through that relationship, serving as a guide, that I became connected to that team. And they brought me on in-house, where I served for 7 years in the Washington, D.C. area. And I'm just really grateful for that opportunity.
Miss Redwood, same question.
Well, good afternoon. Sawabona. Sawabona is a sub-Saharan African greeting of respect, meaning I see you. And in response, you can say, Sakona, I am here. And so I always like to greet folks before I speak, and thank you for welcoming me, and excuse me for walking in front of you, and thank you for sharing the microphone. And thank you, Melanie, for saying, Renee, can you say something? So I am here. I am on the board of the Ms. Foundation of Women. It was an organization that was established in 1972. It is a public charity foundation, meaning we have to raise our money in order to give our money. Our current head of the organization is an African-American woman, and she made a commitment. She made a commitment when she came on 12 years ago that her goal was to raise $100 million. Well, we've exceeded that, which meant a couple of things, particularly in this current moment that we're in, where so much of foundations work is interwoven within the patriarchy of our society, and that much of the dollars that we seek to get often comes from private wealth and private individuals. And so being a public charity, we also face the same challenges that many of the nonprofits do, because we are a 501c3 organization.
Hold on a minute, babe. Okay. Do y'all see who the names of this group? Black Women in Philanthropy. Now, how many of y'all need to raise money? And y'all are talking over the people. We can't eat silently. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel.
Thank you, Mel.
Thank you, Mel. You know, as I was saying, so much of our work is kind of in this intertwine between the patriarchal society and the systems of oppression. And even as a foundation, we face that because we say we are Ms. Foundation for Women, already marginalized in that. Our focus is on centering women and girls of color. We've run into challenges because we stand to that. We're not willing to step back. We say women with a focus on women and girls of color. We don't run from that. Interestingly, by doing that, that kind of moved us separately from a lot of the women's funds that exist, because we are so clear on our purpose and who we choose to make grants to. One of the things consequent to this moment in time is that we made a commitment to our existing grantees that we would do everything in our power to try to make up the difference of dollars that they lost from the traditional progressive foundations that underwrite our organizations. And so that was something we made, which meant we then had to now go back and raise more money, right? Because we could not meet the full needs. So we had a couple of priorities. We said, number one, we want you to retain your staff. And so whatever that budget was, we said we needed to know because we wanted to be able to meet that budget, right? Because we need to make sure that the women who are running these programs can sustain themselves and can sustain their organizations, and we can't do that without people power. We also made a commitment to expand our relationship with those organizations, and while we may have given a grant for reproductive health and justice, they might have also been doing work around childcare, safety. And so again, seeking to make sure that they were enabled to do the work that they were established to do regardless of the culture going on around us. And I think that differentiates us from a lot of organizations, particularly some of the larger progressive organizations which have tried to pull back on their funding, have cut back on their staffs. We didn't reduce our staff at all. We just went out and raised more money. And so part of that was, I believe, because we do have a woman of color, Teresa, Teresa Younger, who has indeed made this commitment. Our commitment is our bond. Our word is our bond, and we operate in that context.
That's a great segue. Give it up, yes. That's a great segue, because historically, the capital behind philanthropy has come from institutions that are far removed from our communities.
Yeah.
What do you think it looks like for philanthropy to truly shift the power to not just funding, but putting it on the front lines of the social impact movement? Anybody?
You know, we have seen like where I don't believe in allyship. Because we've seen where allyship has taken us. And often when philanthropy shows up, they show up as an ally. And either this is your fight or it's not. And so the ability to center Black communities, Black women of color, it has to do with who is able to write those checks. And I can tell you from the experience of all of us, we are fighting internally to make sure that those dollars show up intentionally. I can't tell you the number of times, and I love that you're talking about the people power, that Black female-led organizations sent me a grant request that did not cover the expenses to execute on the work. And I had to send it back to them and say, I need you to let me know what are your operational expenses in addition to your programmatic expenses. Well, and at the same time, comparable, often white-led institutions who have not been doing the work, who have not been showing up in communities, feel no sense of reserve and requesting astronomical amounts that they cannot justify in terms of their proven ability to deliver in communities. So the greatest value for these institutions is to shift who shows up, but also to shift the conversation around systems. And I have to run right after this, but I did want to just like also note that philanthropy is very, very temporal. Like you will have a 1-year grant, you'll have a 2-year grant to talk about shifting systems. And the appetite to do systems level work is very slim in philanthropy. So the ability to have individuals like the folks on this panel that can make the case, that can keep the attention, that can feed the beast in philanthropy is really, really critical in this moment so that we are able to move beyond allyship. Because allyship isn't going to get us across the finish line.
Anybody want to chime in on that question?
So at Tides, we also are run by an African-American woman, a very powerful woman, Janice Evans Page. And the organization is just in alignment with everything that I believe in. We're very strongly steeped in social justice. We are dedicated to our Black communities, and we say it very proudly. I will share that we are under investigation from the administration. I will share that our president travels with a bodyguard because of the attempts on her life have been deemed credible. So this is an extremely difficult time. But what I will share is that she always tells us that our executive team, who have been meeting in what they call a situation room since the spring of 2024 and continue to hold those meetings where they're doing scenario planning, that we are to continue to do the work. And my work is to support Black women and girls who are in community holding the line. And I don't waver from that. And so it is a difficult time because I talk to peers at other philanthropic organizations where they are stepping back from the work. They may not be broadcasting it, but it's quietly being stepped back. So I'm proud to say that I work for an organization where we realize this is just one moment in time. And that the strength that we have is in collaborative power. And so we just surveyed my grantee partners, and this is the only global-led initiative at Tides. So about 30%, about 38 of my partners are in the, represent 40 different countries, but the rest represent every region in the US. And so we surveyed our grantee leaders, and so 50% have lost funding in the past 18 months. But I am so proud in that same survey that 70% are looking at sustainability planning, whether it's diversifying their funding, whether it's in partnership with other organizations, or they're building collaboratives. And that is a powerful thing to have that power in your hands to build movement building and collaboration. And so what I share with my grantee leaders is that by supporting our Black women and girls on the ground, we're supporting democracy. And that's the way they need to look at their work, that you are holding democracy, you're holding the lines, and that we're here with you and partnering with you in that work.
Dr. Sherrod, your work addresses structural inequalities at policy levels. What is the biggest barrier you found from preventing philanthropy from fully addressing these inequalities across the country?
I think one of the biggest one is just historically in this country, it's race. And when you have people that are in positions of power and that control money and resources, but they don't understand, they're not from the communities that are most in need. They don't really have a good understanding of what it takes for those communities to build and to rebuild, and they don't have the trust that these communities can come up with the solutions and that they can implement strategies on their own. Then to me, I think that is one of the biggest challenges that you have, which is why it takes so much work and so much education and so much just, beating the pavement, continuing with the messaging. But also that's why it's important to have Black women, folks from our community, women, men in those positions, in those organizations. We have to be at these different levels and different organizations in order to make sure that we make space for our organizations with resources. One of the other things I would say, just structurally, is that I don't think I think there's a slow movement towards this, but she just mentioned collective impact. And a lot of the things that we do and the ways in which we can be successful is not by one organization doing something independently, but it's by us working together. It's the movement building, it's the coalition building. It's like the strategies that we use that may not necessarily be ones that they see as effective or that they don't have enough data or evidence to show that this is actually effective. Some of it could be that, we're often not telling our story, in a way that speaks to the transformative work that we're doing. And so for us, it's also how we're presenting the work, how we're presenting the outcomes and the change, getting the visibility with with the work that we've done. And so because of that, we tend to fall off the radar. And we may not be, I think a lot of Black organizations may not have the resources or may not do the evaluations, which is just some of the check boxes that philanthropy is looking at. And so when we don't do those things, then it's a little bit difficult for people who don't understand our neighborhoods and our conditions to understand how effective our work is. And so I think it's communication, it's messaging, it's the education that's needed, that's some of the barriers. But then also just, we have really, really good strategies and models that work, and making sure that those things are getting visibility in a way that speaks to the transformation that's happening. So I think that those things are missing within philanthropy, particularly when we don't have representation.
So as we begin to wrap up, 2 quick questions. The first question is, what is one philanthropic practice that you believe should end? And what is one innovation that you believe that will transform how our communities are funded? And I'll start with Ms. Redwood.
Oh, good. Ask me the first question one more time.
So what is one philanthropic practice that you believe should end? And what is one innovation that will transform how we're funded?
I think going back to what was said earlier, that they have to move, philanthropy has to make a commitment to the organization, and you have to enable the organization's infrastructure. Oftentimes, and it was brought up before, that much of philanthropy will move work towards program, but if you don't have the people to do it, if you don't have the funds that pay for the cell phone for them to communicate with the communities, that's all infrastructure capacity, right? Program, yes, has to happen, right? But they give only for program actors if the workforce doesn't matter, while saying you matter to us except for your workforce, except for your ability to make sure that your workforce has health benefits, has retirement benefits, though I think retirement was a last century construct. I'll leave that for a different conversation. So I think that's one thing that needs to happen differently, is that there has to be a commitment to sustain the institution, which has the capability to engage in the communities that your philanthropic money is seeking to improve and better.
I would share that I think what philanthropy needs to do differently is look at our risk analysis and stop being so risk adverse. We need to designate certain dollars for innovation and allow the community to define what that innovation looks like. And so that's what we're moving towards with the Advancing Girls Fund as well. But definitely, when you look at, for example, the tech field, they just throw billions of dollars at an idea and hope that it works out, right? And maybe it does. Maybe you get your next iPhone. Maybe you don't. But we in philanthropy definitely need to become less risk adverse.
Dr. Sherrod.
Yes, one thing that working in communities, what I see that is very destructive that philanthropy does is when they come into spaces where folks are working together in coalitions and they fund one person, or they stop funding one and fund another, and that causes a lot of friction and divide. That has to stop. To me, I think there are ways to encourage like the collaboration, the multi-stakeholder engagement that is really needed in order to really build in a community. So I think what they need to do is to start to look at strategies and these collective impact strategies, but to find a way to distribute the resources in a way that makes sense, that you're not pitting organizations and leaders against each other.
So as we close and get ready to look forward, tell me a little bit about what your hope for the future of philanthropy looks like, and what role do you expect Black women to play in social investment? Let's dream a little bit. Sure. What gives you hope about philanthropy, and what role do you believe Black women will play in shaping the next future for social investment?
Yeah, what gives me hope is that there are, actually I have one really good example. So the Black Belt Community Foundation, for instance, is one philanthropic organization that is committed to actually getting out there and working with the community. So to me, it gives me hope when you have people that are at a foundation that say, we're not telling you what to do, but we will come in and we're going to use the resources in a way and fill in the gaps where needed, and we're going to get busy working with you as well. So like when you have community-based philanthropic organizations that can find ways to support that stakeholder engagement, then to me, that gives me hope, because that's where we build, and that's how we build up. The last part?
What role will Black women play shaping that future?
Black women. Yeah, I think Black women have been doing so much work in our communities, and honestly, what I see with so many Black women losing their jobs, what Black women do is they go out and they create and they start things. And so to me, the role that I see Black women playing is being leaders in how these things come together and creating like new avenues, connecting industries, working cross-sectorally, but making space to like bring up other leaders, bring up other young women. Like I see a big role and an importance for Black women in that, but then also to make sure that Black men are situated in this as well, because we don't do this divided, we do it together.
What brings me hope is that we're seeing it right now. I mean, we're in a very, very difficult, unprecedented time. But what I'm seeing from my grantee leaders is so much reinvention and creation around sustainability. There's $428 billion in philanthropic dollars, and Black women-led organizations get less than 1% of that funding. What I am seeing now is that there are more conversations among leaders around how do we collaborate to build sustainability, whether it's building a for-profit business that gives to the nonprofit, whether it's forming SUSUs where we're raising collectively. So I would love to, my hope is that Foundation's philanthropy would appreciate this creativity that Black women are already doing and invest our dollars in those sustainability projects that are happening now.
What I would hope for is that we have more Black women on the boards of foundations. I sit on the board, I sit on the audit committee, so I see the money coming and going. But more importantly, I have become somewhat skilled at investment because I sit on the investment committee. And so I do think part of our challenge is, and for many of the foundations that would consider moving money into our communities, we need to make sure those foundations also reflect the values they hold about diversity and diversifying their boards of directors. My other hope is that we as Black women form our own foundations. Again, we don't move out of this system of the patriarchal white supremacy. We got to make our own systems. And part of that is that we need to be able to underwrite and support our own communities, create the same infrastructure, but do it the way we would do it to empower our own communities. Our board, I'll just give an example. Our board, our chair is an African-American woman who's attorney. Our treasurer is an African-American woman. The head of our investment committee is an African-American woman. The deputy on the investment committee is a Latina, an Afro-Latina. So if you're trying to look for Black, look at the Ms. Foundation board, and then we got white allies, right? What I've noticed with our white allies, they may have a brown child. Okay? So again, that's my hope, is that we just kind of build our own, because we make money. We do make money, and I think we need to think of ways in which we can create investment opportunities that enable and fuel our community to provide the services that are necessary for our well-being.
So ladies, thank you so much for being here today, and we're almost out of time, but we would have wasted this opportunity if we don't ask the three of you, for everybody who raised their hand a few minutes ago about needing to raise money, what is a tip that you would give to those of us in the movement who are looking to get support? Dr. Sherrod.
Yeah, I'd say one quick way, especially to raise visibility of the work, because that's often an issue. Like, funders just don't know who's out there doing the work. So what I'd say is use social media. Look up the foundations, find the foundations that have programs or that have strategies that align with your work. Find the platforms that they are on and follow them. Pay attention to what they have and, be respectful, don't overdo it, but like the things that they're posting, but then also tag them on the things that you're doing. Like, find ways to raise your visibility. Get in these coalition spaces. Find coalitions that are diverse, that have organizations that are raising funds. Meet with those people, ask them to give introductions, make an introduction for you. So be bold and but do some research and figure it out, but get your work out there and make sure that you can get it before them in ways that are sort of under the radar, but good.
I second that. As a matter of fact, that was number one on my list, was the visibility part of it. Also ensuring that I know that nonprofits have limited funding, right? But make sure that you're in the same rooms where funders are and that you're on panels telling your stories, because it's so important for you to get your messaging out. Of course, social media is just brilliant as well. And then I would share that now is the time to start doing your research around foundations that you think are in alignment with your work, because we've already set our 2026 budget. So we've already funded or we're funding those that are in 2026. We'll start having conversations this spring into the fall, talking about our budgets for 2027. So now is the time, if you haven't already, to just start making your work much more visible. And then I would say even sending an email. I do answer all emails. I know not everyone does, so you don't want to overdo it. If they're not responding, they're not responding. But if you send an email, I'm always happy to have a conversation. Even if I cannot fund you, I can talk to you about others or talk to you about different strategies as well.
Ditto, ditto. But I just say it's about relationships. How do you create the trusting relationship with some of the existing entities that we're already working with, but really expand to look where funds are. You know, I watch NASDAQ have money to give. One of them take your money in some way. I think we need to be much bolder in saying that you're making your profit and you're moving money to everybody but us, but you're making X% of your profit off of my community. Maybe you want to invest so that we could actually buy more, so that you can make more money, so you can put it back right into our community. And so I think we have to get real, I think we have to start to get real technical and start to be very tactical in our work. You know, when we see, that was part of the reason Teresa was able to raise over $100 million. And she only set the goal 5 years ago, right? It was the relationships in going out and finding entities that we had never asked before. So it meant it took courage to be able to step into a space that we had never been. And I think we need to be there, because all of these spaces that have money have money because we purchased something from them. And it's about time that they start to move it back into our communities.
Ladies, thank you so very much for being here. Melanie, thank you for creating this space for us. Let's go get some money, guys. Thank you.
Who you calling up?
Tell them to come fix it. They need to fix the steps, the steps, the step.
Trying to make a sister feel low. You know all of that got to go. Now every Everybody knows there's exceptions to this rule. I don't be getting mad when we playing this cool. But don't you be calling me out my name. I bring rep to those who disrespect me like a dame. That's why I'm talking. One day I was walking down the block. I had my cut off shorts on, right? Cause it was crazy hot. I walked past these dudes when they passed me. One of them felt my booty, he was nasty. I turned around red, somebody was catching a rat. Then the little one said, yeah, me, bitch. Since he was with his boys, he tried to break the fly. I punched him dead in his eyes. Said, who you calling a bitch?
How y'all doing out there? Can we give our philanthropy panelists, moderator, a round of love? You doing all right? I think the girls, are the girls left? They're still here? They could stay, girls track, facilitators want the girls to stay to the end of the panel, and then we know you can, we're gonna shift a little bit with the afternoon so we can get a little bit of a break in there and cut that short just a little. So just bear with us, because I hope, is it good information though? If we're gonna have a strategy session, you gotta have good strategy. And also, there's somebody that I've known for quite some time who, when I first met her, she happens to be a Delta, but that's not it, even though that's important. Just happens to be a Delta, that's important. And all the Divine Nine Sisters, you're in the room. Go ahead, it's all of us. All the Me sisters in the room, we in the room. It's one, let's say united, we win. So we're not divided. But I tell you, being in the civil rights movement for as long as I have, someone mentioned, I think it was Elsie, you know, I was able to be mentored by Dr. Dorothy Irene Height and many others. And the one thing about it, she opened those doors, but she didn't just open those doors for me. So how many people were touched by Dr. Height, either if you knew her or if you didn't know her? So we are all blessed by her and all those who came after her. One of those former executive directors is Janice Mathis. One of those former executive directors is Dr. Avis Jones-Weaver. Have I left anybody else? There's board members in here, wave your hand, right, who worked hard with Dr. Height. But there's a young sister. She ain't young as she used to be, neither me, but she's young. She's not just young in age. She's young in ideas and vision, bold ideas and vision, not afraid to speak up and speak out when it need be. We know how to talk to each other. Sometimes you're in the room with and nothing against the brothers in the room. Just saying. Sometimes you can say something and they hear you. Then the brothers say something and they heard it. So we find ways, because really, when Dr. Height, and we talked about our civil rights organizations working together, it was a time when there was only one woman. And then there was a time, and one thing that I was very, very blessed to be a part of is that door opened wider. And now, and it is, I think, is it four of the eight historically black civil rights organizations, or led by, not all civil rights, are black women. And so we cut up a bit here and there, and hit the road together. She's also a mother. She's also a woman of a reverend, but she also is the president and CEO of the National Council of Negro Women, who will bring remarks. My sister, my Sarah, my friend, and me and Stacy, we out there fighting the fight together. And so I turn it over to you, my sister, to bring some remarks.
You know, sometimes we have to stop and reflect on what life brings to us. And I had no idea I was doing remarks. I thought I was on a panel, but we thank God for remarks. But when you know God, you have to always be in position to share. In the middle of life's storms, God often wonders, how will you live on the boat? I'm literally in a storm, and the boat is rocking. But when the boat was rocking in the storm, when Jesus was on it, he was still asleep. And one of the things that I want to offer today is that our boat is rocking. As a matter of fact, the winds are blowing, the panels are coming off the boat. But I suspect in my sanctified imagination that Jesus is just sleeping. And I'm realizing that when you read the verses in that story, the disciples were mad at Jesus. And they were mad at Jesus because they thought he was asleep. And in addition, they said, if you're asleep, that means you don't care. He said, don't you see we're dying? Can't you see we're falling and sinking? And Jesus slowly got up irritated because they stopped the one that could stop the storm from sleeping. And I'm actually preaching to myself right now. I'm going to let Jesus sleep because I have enough faith to know that this storm can't kill us because I'm in the boat with the one that controls all of the storms. And so I'll never begin to question God, why will you do this? I will say, God, what you going to do about this? And so I want to offer to you in my remarks that we are in a moment of Jesus, what you going to do about this? At NCNW, we often find ourselves up against a lot of storms. We were affected like everyone else. The administration took $5 million from our budget to serve women and children in immunizations. Hear me. And yet and still, Jesus is still sleeping. And so I'm in a posture of expectation right now. Because when the boat gets crazy, sometimes the people on the boat get crazy too. And then we begin to fight each other, and then we miss the whole movement is a distraction from the actual enemy, which is not ourselves. The enemy is outside of the boat. And so as we stand together as black women, don't let anybody come up in your boat and divide you because the enemy is outside of the boat. And as I pour this moment right now of clear understanding that attacks are actually a part of the process. As a matter of fact, we wouldn't serve and shout and worship like that unless God brought us through something. So in advance, I'm about to start thanking God for 2026. I'm about to start thanking God for 2027 and 2028. Because when I look back over my life and I begin to think things over, he has brought us so far. How dare I question that what God has already done for us? How dare I stand in the way of God's blessings over us? And I'm going to leave you with 3 strategies. The NCNW is finding 3 C's. Say 3 C's. The first C is very clear. We have to have a consumer strategy that's better than what we have now. Let me offer this very quickly. Stop buying brands that don't buy into your values. And part of our branding is also that we are trying to protect the black women inside of many of these corporations. The second C is a constituent strategy. There are 435 members of the House of Representatives that will be running for office. They will come into your churches, they'll come into your mosque and ask for your vote. And the question you ask is, have you been here in 4 years? There'll be 33 senators that'll be running. There are governors that are running. There are mayors that are running. And the question will come, where have you been? And I offer that this constituent strategy is going to be called Power Up inside of NCNW. Power Up, Ready to Vote is our plan. And let me be clear, we are nonpartisan, but we are politically factual. There'll be 17 districts that we're going to go in head first on, because 17 districts could change the way this U.S. House moves in their legislation. Somebody say 17 districts. The last C is very simple. It's a commitment strategy. Hear me. Black institutions need commitments. Black families need commitments. Black businesses need commitments. I ask you to commit today, sister, to support this organization, to support Melanie Campbell, to support the black women that are actually out here leading and fighting on the ground. And I'm going to add another C. I want you to have a courage strategy. And let me just offer in my close, because I'm Baptist, I know how to close quick. The courage strategy is very simple. I told you that the storms are flipping the boat. But I realized something. You got to have a boat to have power. We're the only organization with a black and woman-owned building on Pennsylvania Avenue. And it took courage for Dorothy Irene Height to, before she took her last breath, to ensure that our organization was standing on Pennsylvania Avenue. And I'm a petty preacher. It is the joy of my life that folks that hate me gotta walk by a building every day that's got Dorothy Height's name written on it. And so the courage moment for us is that we must have courage in the face of our enemies. I want you to begin to learn how to stand flat-footed and say, not on my watch. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know who I serve. You don't know how I've been brought through, and you don't know how this is going to turn out. Because if you know like I know, I'm going to start rejoicing in advance. Because I had the consumer strategy, I had a constituent strategy, I got a commitment strategy, but I got a courage strategy. And the courage strategy is the most important thing, because when you walk in knowing who you are and whose you are, can't nobody tell you anything. And so because I stand as my mama's daughter, my daddy's daughter, I'm Micah's mother, I know who I am, whose I am, and you can't do nothing about it. God bless you.
As I look back over my life, and I think things over, I can truly say that I've been blessed. I got a testimony. Yeah, as I look back over my life, yeah, and I think things over, I can truly say He brought me all the way. I got a testimony. Yeah, as I look back over my life, yeah, and I think of things over.
All right. Let the church say amen. Now at this time, we are preparing for our Power Building Roundtable 2. Technology, access, artificial intelligence, AI, and impact on the future of work, education, environment, and entrepreneurship opportunities. Now at this time, ladies and gentlemen, put our hands together and let's receive Monique Presley, attorney, TV legal analyst, radio host of the Monique Presley Show. Let's make some noise for Miss Presley.
Hey, everybody. Wow, you all look beautiful, beautiful out there. Give yourselves a hand. Who thought it was a good idea for me to come behind Reverend Siobhan Arline Bradley? I'm a preacher too, though, so I'm going to hold my own. Praise God. Praise Him. Hallelujah. All right, but we're going to be talking about something that has everything to do with the divine and has everything to do with our good senses and has everything to do with science. And I'm going to have people joining me who know more about it than I. How many people right now are using artificial intelligence in your everyday lives? AI, artificial, see, somebody said using what? See, this is why we're having this panel. AI. Now, it should be every single person in the room because AI is what the microwave was, something we were scared of and had to get used to, and now it's not going anywhere. So it's a question of whether we use it or it uses us, but either way, we have to figure it out. And that's why this session is technology access, artificial intelligence, and its impact on the future of work, education, environment, and entrepreneurship opportunities. My panel, please welcome Shaylin Cochran, Deputy Executive Director, Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. Give her a hand. Welcome. Please welcome Nicole Turner-Lee, PhD, Dr. Turner-Lee, Director, Center for Technology Innovation, Senior Fellow, Governance Studies, Brookings. Esquire, Janice Mathis, ESQ Director, NCBCP, Thomas W. Dortch Jr. Institute at Clark Atlanta University. Where's Janice? Okay, I know she's here somewhere. We'll see. It's somebody see Janice, send her on. Okay. Jocelyn Tate, JD, founder and CEO, TS Strategies, Senior Technology Policy Advisor, NCBCP. Welcome, Jocelyn. And the queen is here, Kimberly Jeffries Leonard, President and CEO, Envision Consulting, VP of Administration, Black Women's Agenda, 17th National President of the Links Incorporated. All right, all right. Now that's a full panel. Welcome, welcome everybody. So here's what we're trying to figure out. And before we get to the questions, we're trying to figure out how far our community really is behind and what we're going to do about it. I just did my own unofficial poll in the room, so that tells us everything that we need to know, right, about kind of where we are as Black women and where we need to be, how AI impacts us, and how we take control, okay? So what we're looking to understand is what the opportunities are for emerging technologies and how to mitigate the harms that come from these technologies. So I'll start with you, Shaylin. It's important, I think, that we do both because AI is now, as I already said, it's the microwave, and it's whether we're using it or not. And the role of discrimination, the role of the way that we are traditionally left behind, we're seeing it exacerbated with the influx of technology. What role is the Lawyers Committee playing toward getting rid of the harm, I guess, and moving us toward the future, and what goals can we all kind of look forward to moving into together?
Thank you, Monique, and it's good to see everyone. It's so exciting to be here. Everybody looks beautiful. I know we are post-lunch, but still the energy in the room is beautiful. Have to start with some gratitude to Melanie and to others for convening us, for bringing us together, and for giving me the opportunity to speak with you all today. So as Monique said, Shaylin Cochran, I'm the Deputy Executive Director at the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, where we fight each and every day inside of the courtroom, outside of the courtroom, using litigation, policy, and really all tools of advocacy to try to make the promises of our democracy real in every sector of our life. And for us, increasingly, every sector of our life means digital access, digital tools. As we talked about AI is ubiquitous. Everybody's hand should have been, both hands should have been up, because in every facet of life, from how you go to work, to how you can buy a house, to how you buy a car, to how your kids get into school, there is some sense of AI, some algorithm working in the background increasingly in all of that. And so our top line at the Lawyers Committee is that AI is neither good nor bad. It's not neutral. That is the thing to understand. And just like any technology, just like any system, any aspect of life throughout the history, throughout our generations, we can't allow it to passively be put on us. And so our ability to harness and really force AI and other technologies to work for our good is something that's not going to happen on its own. And so from our vantage point at the Lawyers Committee, we've been looking, and like many of you have as well, at some of the stats. And I just want to share some things with you. One, to underscore that there is a lot of possibility with AI, but also there's some risks, and some risks that we should be clear-eyed about. So one study from MIT recently found that through various facial recognition systems, there was an error rate approaching 35% for darker-skinned Black women, compared to an error rate of less than 1% for lighter-skinned men. Right? So for many of us in the room, if you think about FRT, that's on your phone, that's when you're going into your banking systems, that technology is more prone to produce error rates for many of us compared to some of our colleagues and peers who are in different positions. A major corporation, I'm not going to say their name right now, but a major company doing some big hiring recently developed an AI internal recruiting tool to look at resumes. It's meant to fast track how they can put people in various positions. And a study found that over time, that tool began to train or learn to tag any resume that said women in a negative posture. So if it's outputting a score on how to rank various candidates, it's scanning those resumes, and if it sees anything using the word woman, it's taking points down. Again, showing the ways that somehow these algorithms can work against us. And here's one stat that was shocking to me as a recent first-time home buyer, but the algorithms used to process mortgage applications were studied, and they found that Black applicants were up to 80% more, were 80% more often than white applicants, similarly situated, similar economic background, educational background, so apples to apples comparison, the difference being race. And Black applicants were 80% more often than white applicants prone to being rejected for those mortgage applications. And so again, this just goes back to the principle that AI is not neutral, and we need to find ways to harness the technology, to take the good, to use that innovation, but to force it to work on our behalf. So one of the ways that we're doing that at the Lawyers Committee is through a piece of legislation called the AI Civil Rights Act that is meant to help promote innovation, but recognize that with all things, some regulation is helpful. And so that means having a legislation that if it becomes law will require more disclosures. So we quite simply know when an AI algorithm, when some technology is actually working behind the scenes, that will require technologists and others in certain situations to do testing on the front end before AI is even deployed, so that it can track for disparities and things that might be harming certain communities, sometimes in an unintended consequence. And so trying to get some legislation in place to regulate AI is one way that we think we can have innovation be done, but be done in a way that is still responsible.
Thank you so much for that. AI is replacing my job, is what people are thinking. That's the fear. AI is going to replace me, and I'm no longer going to be necessary or vital or have a way to earn a living. Nicole, first of all, is it true that AI is replacing many of the entry-level jobs where experience was traditionally built? And if so, what types of skills will new job applicants need to bring to the workforce that can't be so easily replaced?
Well, thank you so much. And I'm so appreciative of Melanie. I feel like I'm back home. I see Joy. Joyce and I have known each other. I was started at the Joint Center. I see Gina. So it's always good to be home. And I'm also happy because I have my daughter here. She could be other places on her spring break, but she decided to come to the Women of Power Roundtable, okay? That's good. So thank you. So this is a really interesting question for me. So if you don't mind, I'd like to start, Monique, by just asking everybody a question who raised their hand. How many people in this room have a copyright, a trademark, or patent on any AI-enabled product or service? Raise your hand. Okay, I see one. Okay, anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, so I'm gonna tell you something that my mother told me when I was growing up. If you are not in the kitchen, you are on the menu. Think about it for a moment. We use these products and services in ways that are supposed to be empowering, yet they're not optimized for our own cultural experiences and identities. As it was mentioned before in the philanthropy panel, who is sitting in the boardroom? We may know Sam Altman, but name one Black woman who sits on a board of one of these big tech companies in which we consume. And so for us, this has to be personal. I want to say one thing in regards to jobs being replaced. I don't know about you, but Black women are irreplaceable. No one can replace our imagination, our beauty, our intelligence, our wit, our curiosity, and our courage. And that's really important for people to hear because we hear this speculation that we're going to lose jobs. Well, I'm here to tell you, I'm a sociologist by training. I'm a researcher. We've lost 400,000 jobs under this current administration, and it was not necessarily due to just AI. So let's be really clear that a lot of what we're seeing in terms of workforce displacement is coming as a result of this narrative that's suggesting that we can be replaced. You know, I go to a lot of meetings oftentimes and I hear companies who are up in arms about we have to replace people because AI is going to change our business. And then you ask them how many jobs, which jobs, when, and how long is this transition going to take, and they cannot even answer that question. We have not had really good research to really tell us what does that jobship look like. And I think it's important for us as Black women to sort of take agency back and let people know that we are experienced not just in the technology, but we're also healthcare providers. We also understand the law. We understand the way in which financial services work. We understand verticals in which AI augments. And so let me go to school for just a minute because I think we have this confusion that AI is everything. You know, I use this analogy. I used to go to, I don't go as much, to the old country buffet. And I used to stack my plate at the beginning of the line because everything looked good. But by the time I got to the last four things, the filet mignon and the really good selection of fish and turkey, I had no more room on my plate. That is how AI is right now. There's so much stuff that we think that we should take everything, but it's not necessarily designed for Black women. And that's a project that I'm doing right now. I told Melanie we're gonna work together. I'm doing a project on Black women in AI, friend or foe. It's important for us to get to the good stuff, the last four things at the line, but we gotta decipher through the junk, the stuff that surveils us, that criminalizes us, that hypersexualizes us. Facial recognition. No one talks about Portia Woodruff. Portia Woodruff was actually arrested through facial recognition. They went to her home, a Black woman's home, arrested her in front of her children, said she had committed a crime in Detroit. She went to the station only to find out that the person in the video that facial recognition identified was not 8 months pregnant. She then had to pay to get out of jail, to get expunged, and it wasn't even her. So we have to continue to look for the good AI, the good stuff, the stuff that we develop that embraces who we are. So a long roundabout to your question, I'm of the opinion that we can't be replaced, that we're not asking the right questions in the workplace. I mean, Black people overall, we have always been, last hired, first fired. So that's not new to us. But what's different about this technology is even if your company decides that they're going to put robots in everybody's position, somebody still has to turn them on. Somebody still has to service them. They're not just going to turn on by themselves. Even if your company decides you're a lawyer, that you're going to actually automate all of your legal research, somebody still has to fact check it, because at the end of the day, the high liability that a lawyer may have can come because somebody didn't look at AI. Even if you're a doctor or a clinician, and somebody decides that you could sit in your doctor's office now and triage through a robot or through AI transcription notes, I can tell you right now, somebody still has to check those things. There's a case that happened in New York City in one of the best hospitals where the transcription was wrong and the person died. And so for me, it's more like, how do we begin to think about our agency in this space? What does our organization look like? Where do I fit in as an enabler of technology? How do I, in many respects, like I tell myself, I'm not going to get a PhD in computer scientist nor a data science degree. I know people who have those things. But I know enough to be dangerous, and I know enough when it's being weaponized against me. So I tell people all the time, it's about knowing before you go. In the workplace, asking questions about how is this looking in terms of my job, ensuring that the talent that you brought to the workplace is not dismissed, because they're still going to need your intelligence, your insight, your humor, your engagement, your interpersonal skills, your judgment, Joy, and I know, right? We're still gonna need those things. And until somebody tells us differently, it's really important for us to stay woke. And so I just reject all of the notions in my research that all of a sudden we're gonna wake up and the robots come down the street. Let me tell you, I was on the road the other day. I saw one of those driverless cars. I love the driverless cars. People who work at that company, but you ain't gonna find me in one of those yet. Because I still need to build my confidence that I could be in a car and I'm not driving, right? My point is, it's gonna take some time before we actually see this. And again, I just don't want people to be confused. When you read the headlines, you see a lot of them. This company's laying off 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. That's not AI. That's because they wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Let me be real clear, that's not AI. These companies were already bloated, already overextended, and they're using this to a certain extent to make a business decision to get on the front page of the news, and we're affected. So we've got to go back, and I know we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, but we've got to make sure that this is our friend and not our foe.
So as a quick follow-up, what are some business opportunities, some new marketplace opportunities as a result of AI, as people are figuring out the ways to stay relevant in their current positions? What are some different ones that they can be looking toward that are now that are coming into existence because of AI?
I love that question. I'm working on a project. So I'm at the Brookings Institution, by the way. I'm a think tank person, but very much started in civil rights. So I'm working on this project right now. It's called the Unhidden Figures Repository. And it's actually based on the story of Katherine Johnson, Hidden Figures. And the reason I started this is because it took people until Katherine Johnson was 96 years old to recognize her. And then she died about 5 years later. And so I'm on a mission to recognize people while we all are alive and we're doing these things. And so what I'm finding is that people in this space are doing really incredible things. To counter the trauma that goes into the data training these models, there are Black women who are developing data sets that actually do not represent our pain, our harm, and misjudgment. They actually are thinking about ways to curate data that make sense for us, because we're already underrepresented. I'm very much sensitive to what happened recently with the Henrietta Lacks family in healthcare. That is something that keeps me up at night, that her cells were used for commercial use and she was not compensated, yet she saved so many people's lives. So there are Black women now who understand the technology enough to create new streams of data, data that benefits us. There are people who are servicing those robots, as I've said, in terms of fleet. There are folks who are actually training within companies now on AI literacy. There are people who are actually emboldening community organizations and are thinking about ways in which we train up young people at the K through 12 level all the way to college. I'm doing a project now with Spelman College where we're actually working with the Black female students there to think about what does AI mean in their lives. So I think there are different spaces. I don't think entrepreneurs should think any differently now. I think they should think the same way, the same motivation. Dr. Avis knows, she always gets on us entrepreneurs and other folks to think about ways to do and imagine our work differently. It's just going to require people to think about, how do I do this differently? And let me say this too, the reason I'm doing this Black Women AI project, AI can be really good to actually train you new skills. I mean, come on, y'all. My husband, who I have to like yell at to take out the trash and do all this other stuff, he signed up for an AI class and now he don't talk to me, right? Because he's downstairs doing a free AI class. You know, he's so excited he can tell me what he's learning about AI that I don't know. But that was free. And so my point is there are resources for us, even when we do not understand it, through Google, through Amazon, through, Coursera, some of the universities, where you can get on and you could do it in the privacy of your living room and nobody will know, and you'll actually figure out what people are talking about. And I think for me, that's different in terms of us reskilling and retooling and getting tools that we need.
Thank you. Appreciate you for that. Joycelyn, we are seeing artificial intelligence make consequential decisions in our lives, right? So in terms of education, employment, housing, healthcare, financial services, criminal justice system, it goes on and on. But we also, as I said at the beginning, are seeing biases and discriminatory practices that are built in where the systems, the artificial systems, don't recognize us. How do we protect ourselves against biased and discriminatory AI decision-making practices?
Well, first of all, one of the things that we're working on here at the Black Women's Roundtable and the legislation that was mentioned earlier, the AI Civil Rights Act, that's one of the ways, because once these biases are in, the biases are built into the systems because the people who created the systems don't look like us. So these systems have to be checked before they're put out and after they're put out to test them for bias and have them mitigated. But also one of the things that's going to have to come out of the legislation, because we know companies don't regulate themselves. They don't do self-regulation. It's up to us, just like companies didn't, have environmental protections until they were forced to do so. So the regulations are going to have to happen, and what those regulations are going to have to be is to make them transparent, make these systems transparent, so that if you apply for a loan and you don't get the loan and hey, my credit score is good, I've got good credit, that you can intervene and say, hey, I want a human being to check this. And actually, even without the legislation, I would say do that now. Do that now. If you've applied for a loan or some type of financial services and I know I'm good for this, but I didn't get it. Excuse me, did you use an AI system? I would like for my application to be checked by a human being because I don't believe this is correct. And the reason is because when we use these systems, and like she mentioned earlier, being scored down, on these resumes, these AI systems learn, and they learn that you don't necessarily get the job if the name on your, if you went to Harvard, if you went to Hampton or Howard and you didn't go to Harvard. That's a little check down. If your name is Keisha and not Katie, that's a check down. Okay, because the systems are learning those things, and they're learning where to put value and where not to put value. So that's how you get checked down. And I want to say another thing, following up on what Nicole was saying when you were talking about entrepreneurs. African Americans are some of the most creative people in the world. Everything that we come up with, the whole world wants to do. Our music and everything else. And don't think for a second that it's not going to be the same with AI. Once we get our hands on it, and we get in it and we start to do it, we're going to come up with some things that are going to blow people's minds, and everyone is going to want to do it. Just like they want to take our music, our style, our fashion, our hair, our culture, everything else. We're the most creative people in the world. So when it comes to entrepreneurship and AI, once we get our hands on it, everyone's going to want to do it.
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree, Dr. Tate. One more question for you. I want to talk about data centers because we are seeing more and more of a need. as AI gets larger and larger and bigger. But this is of great concern to the communities where these data centers are taking over land space. It significantly and negatively impacts the environment. It drives fossil fuel pollution, strains our water resources, raises electricity prices, and let me be a litigator for a minute. The jury is still out on the effect that this is having on the health of the human beings in the communities where these data centers are located. What is it that we can be doing to protect ourselves, and what information do we need to know in order to be kind of actively involved, our own advocates in our communities?
Well, I did a little bit of research before I came on data centers. And I just want to let you know that the average data center in the U.S. uses 300 megawatts of power. Now, that might not, people may say, well, how much is 300 megawatts of power? But that's equal to what powers 240,000 homes for one data center. And we have over 3,700 data centers right here in the country right now and growing. So that is how much power these facilities are using. And data centers need electric power. They need water to cool all of the systems in there. And they have emissions, turbine emissions that are constantly running to keep those things cool. So what we need is federal legislation. And there's a lot of federal legislation that has been introduced. But because of the current agenda, I'll say, of this Senate and the White House, the possibility of those things being passed, that legislation being passed, is pretty slim. So what we have to do, because they're really looking to exempt any type of regulations. They want to accelerate databases and exempt any type of regulations that would hinder that, any type of environmental protection regulations or anything like that, or any energy conservation regulation. So what's important is for us to get involved on the local level, because that's where we're going to have to speak up about these data centers. So what we have to do is, when they start to come in your neighborhoods, because data centers make money for municipalities, and that's why there's so many. We're sitting right here in Virginia right now. Loudoun County is considered data center alley because they have more data centers than any place in the world. And the reason is because those data centers make money. For every $23 that a data center makes a county in taxes, they spend $1 on services. So if I can make $23 and only have to spend out $1, yeah, bring the data center my way. So that's why they're springing up in communities. But what's happening now is they're starting to spring up into communities that didn't even know they were coming. And lower income communities that are like they're just springing up, like in my hometown of Memphis when XAI came up. And it was put right in front of one of the poorest neighborhoods in the city. And people were waking up in the morning to the stench of the data centers, of the emissions, polluting their water and raising their electric bills. So what we have to do is, as a community, because we're probably not going to get any federal legislation, is we have to, as a community, make sure that our voices are heard when it comes to local government. So what we have to do is make data centers, make them bring their own power grid. Because what's happening is these data centers are coming in and they're raising people's electric bills because it takes a lot of electricity to run a data center. And what happens is they're on the power grid that everyone else uses. So we end up paying a larger bill. Make them bring their own data centers. Make them bring their own power grids. Have a separate electricity source that's separate, that they use that's separate from what everyone else uses. Make them, because they're coming whether we want them or not. And they're coming because everybody that raised their hand in here that uses AI, that's why we have the data centers, because of our use of AI. So it's not going away. So when you're in your community and they talk about bringing data centers into your community, tell them, put them on a separate grid. make them have their own separate power grid or solar grid. Make the data centers pay for their own share of electricity. When it comes to environmental protections, one center here in Loudoun, in Virginia, that's coming up, in order to control the carbon emissions, they are having them plant forestry and trees all the way around the data center so that they act like a carbon sink. Because when you have greenery, it helps to absorb the environmental pollutants in the air. So when you have all that greenery, one, it brings forestry to the neighborhood, and two, it helps to suck up the carbon emissions. So make them do things like that. So you're the ones that are going to have to go to your communities, because we're not going to get any federal legislation out with the makeup of this Senate and White House and this administration that we have. So when they're talking about bringing them to your communities, you're going to have to force them to do those things so that they don't overburden you and people come up with $300, $400, $500 electric bills after they're in their retirement years, and they have to pay an electric bill of $500 because a data center is nearby.
Thank you for that. Kimberly Jeffries Leonard. Let's talk about the Black Women's Agenda and corporate America, okay? Because Forbes is reporting that AI skills have become among the most non-negotiable skills that employees must have in the workplace. How, one, can corporate leaders engage their employees to adopt to this need and to thrive? And what kind of demand can we as Black women be placing on corporate America so that we will remain relevant as they require these new skills?
Thank you for that question. And I want to thank Melanie for having me up here with this esteemed panel. I want to take it back a little bit, though. And so everything that each of these experts said is true as it relates to AI. Part of the challenge that I think that we have is, as we said, AI is here to stay. We're here. And so where we are now is, as we said, back when other people, when we had, you talked about the microwave, it's here. So we have to be astute. We have to be ready. We have to be unafraid. And again, we have to understand the pros and the cons of AI. In doing that, as we prepare to address the new requirements of corporate America, we have to start earlier before we get to corporate America. So we have to make sure that our babies understand what it looks like, because we all use AI. I mean, every time you put something into Google, they'll say, well, you want the AI version or you want the regular Google version. They're starting to read your algorithm so they know when you put your ways in. We know which way you like to go. And so that's what we're starting to direct you, because we know that you like to be on roads that don't have highways, because we're reading what you do. We know what you do. We know what you like to read. That's why we give you these advertisements. We're listening to what you're saying. That's why you said something to your friend on the phone, and then when you got on your phone, the thing popped up. Well, how do they know that? Because it's everywhere, and it's ever present. And so what we have to do is we have to start acknowledging that early with our children, in our learning environments. We have to do that as we move up, as they matriculate through school. We have to make sure that we have parents who understand why it's important. We have to make sure that, I love that this is an intergenerational room, because some of my younger sisters in the room, they know exactly what they're working with. You got people in my age who like, okay, I'm trying to get it, help me out. And then you have people who may be older, women who may be older, who like, I ain't touching that mess for anything. And so what we have to do is we have to make sure that we are advancing and introducing at every level where people are. And so, having said that, many of our corporate leaders, we have to ensure that they're understanding AI, and they have to understand how it impacts their workforce, how it impacts women of color, how women who are moving up the corporate ladder, we have to make sure that we are introducing how they can use this, because people are using it, and we're the ones who are looking like we're behind. And we have to make sure that we are, as we said, the risks and the pros and cons. One of the things that I will say, as it relates to Black Women's Agenda, who has, as an organization, as you all heard our president and CEO, we have 24 national collaborating organizations, many of which the leaders are sitting here in this room. Of those 24 national collaborating organizations and members of those organizations, we touch 5 million women. In touching those 5 million women, we're touching millions and millions and millions more in the communities. So that allows us, throughout all of the organizations in which we are engaged, and then some of the organizations that may not be members of Black Women's Agenda who are in this room, it allows us to be able to start moving and implementing programs that introduce AI at every level, that help leverage where you are with AI at every level, to implement programs for corporate leaders, like panels like this, so they can better learn how to use, understand, and leverage AI. So we have power here. And we as Black women, corporate partners, we have many corporate partners in this room, we have power to ensure that those who need it, which is everybody, is going to get it, learn it, understand it, and entrepreneurship and businesses, we don't want a business to close because this is the movement. So if we have a sustained, established business, I see the clock.
You can't use it. We're going to give 1 minute to each. So
But see, then we have to make sure that we're saying, how are you using this in your business? Because we don't need to lose anybody. So our job is to lift as we climb and ensure that we are all able to sustain ourselves and stay at the tables and move up in the corporate environment or whatever environment we sit, because it's here and it's here to stay.
And thank you for that. We appreciate that. And we've just got less than 4 minutes left. We can't end without a call to action. Give me 60
about regulation often tell me the AI Civil Rights Act, they're not going to pass anything in Congress right now. Congress is not going to do anything. But we need to get these concepts about regulation, about what it means to have some sort of healthy, responsible guardrails on innovation in the bloodstream of the policymakers and the decision makers, so that when we are in a position, hopefully sooner rather than later, to make change, to make new laws, people already know what the issues are. And then the last thing I'll say is, if you are in a position of power, if you are in HR, if you're in a corporate boardroom, or if you are at a policy-making position, ask questions, right? What we've, I think, talked about a lot on this session is garbage in, garbage out. If the data, if the systems, if the people making our AI systems come with their biases, then we're gonna get a product that reflects that as well. And so asking questions, what's the data underlying this? Have we tested this for disparities? Are there disclosures involved? And you can do that whenever you're encountering AI. The information will be important about how we need to moving forward.
Thank you, Nicole. 60 seconds.
60 seconds. So what I would say is, I want to just tag on that 5 million black women. We need a black women's agenda on AI, point blank. We need the 5 million plus in this organization to come together, and we need to make AI our friend and not our foe. But we also need to ensure that we're looking at the extractive nature of this technology, just as we talked about data centers and we talk about applications. They are constantly extracting information. And we have to be clear that no longer do we not have agency over ourselves, our communities, our defining moments, and really situating ourselves in that debate where this is not something that can be extractive, but it has to be much more productive and additive to our experiences. So I would say, know before you go is basically what I've been telling people.
Thank you, Joycelyn.
Ask questions. Ask questions. Any type of application that you apply for, education, health care, your health insurance companies are using AI too. Any situation where you think you want a second opinion, say, I want a human intervention on this. I want to, just like you would ask the doctor for a second opinion, I want a human intervention because I think you used my zip code. I think the AI tool used my zip code to discriminate against me in my mortgage loan. Ask the questions. Don't be afraid. Tell them you want human intervention in any type of way.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Educate, educate, educate. Educate yourself from a trusted source. Like I tell my mom every day, I don't want to see what the Facebook article said. I need the trusted source.
Yes.
So educate yourself from a trusted source, educate others, and then ensure that they are educating someone. So my 1 second, educate. Educate ourselves, educate each other.
And the last thing I will add is, in 10 seconds, there are many things that can be replicated and duplicated. The human spirit is not one of them. So understand that no matter what the weapon is that we are using so that it doesn't get used on us, it cannot replace you. There is something about you that is infinitely unique and divine. Tap into that as you utilize these skills and these gifts and these resources. Thank you, and thank you to my panel. That we are done.
Then sit down, do what you wanna do. Don't let nobody tell you what you're supposed to do. You in a corner, you grinding, trying to do the best. You ain't trying to do no time, man. I know you feel it's rough. And if you
Can we give our panel a great thank you, round of applause of love? We're going to have, thank you ladies, give them one more round of applause. I tell you, this AI thing is so, it is what it is. Anybody who was around to know how the internet became what it is, initially I didn't want to email out. Well, I don't want that. What is that thing? So it is what it is. It's not going nowhere. We just got to figure out how to not just be consumers, but we're going to make some money off of it, and how we protect ourselves. Because it's not going, hey, Gina Wood, how you doing? Couple of things. We are going to shift a little bit. I don't know where Ebony is. If you're here, come up. We're going to take a break. But before we take that break, we have one of our Sister Award honorees who can't be here tomorrow from Ohio. So we'll bring Petey Talley up for her to present that award. And then Ebony Baylor is going to come up. We're going to take a break, and we're going to the organizer and me always can try to read a room. And when people get tired, they were like, I'm not going to that workshop now. They went 30 minutes over. I'm one of them. I know how it is. But I'm going to ask you all to take a break and come to these breakout sessions because folks are really ready for you, and we're going to cut them down to an hour today. We've got a couple other things that we wanted to do that we're going to shift for tomorrow. We're going to have a conversation with some of our state leaders. We're going to do that tomorrow. And actually, the girls want to shift when they do their presentation to the evening. So for those of y'all who are registered and will be here through tomorrow, pay attention to your app. What they call it, CrowdCom, right? Is that what they call it? Pay attention to your app. Y'all notice y'all didn't get a lot of paper this year, right? And so we're trying to be environmentally friendly, but it's as friendly as if you don't have that app, then you don't really know what any kind of changes. You should get text messages telling you what I'm telling you right now, but I really want to also make sure I announce that. So, Petey, I'm going to turn it over to you to present the Sister Award to your honoree, our honoree.
Thank you so much. Y'all all right? All right, thank you so much for hanging in here. This has been very rich. So, the Ohio Coalition on Black Civic Participation Black Women's Roundtable, we are pleased to nominate Lavera R. Scott, a lifelong Toledo, Ohio resident known for her extensive leadership in elections. She started her career with the Lucas County Board of Elections in 2004, and she rose through multiple roles, ultimately becoming director in 2017, when she was recognized by the Ohio Secretary of State as Democrat Ohio Election Official of the Year. She mentors new election officials and has held several leadership positions in the Ohio Association of Election Officials, the OAEO, including co-chair of the Legislative Committee and trustee that honored her as OAEO's Volunteer of the Year in 2022. Ms. Scott also served as second vice president before becoming the first African-American president of the Ohio Association of Elected Officials in 2026. The first, y'all hear me? She's noted for her advancing diversity and inclusion in Ohio's election. And as Ohio's ever-changing election administration landscape threatens to disenfranchise voters, we know that Lavera's leadership in Lucas County and now statewide as the incoming president of the Ohio Association of Election Officials will include a sense of fairness and balance to the challenges faced by voters when exercising their right to vote and to have those votes counted. We are pleased, Melanie, to honor her with the NCBCP Sister Leadership Award. Y'all join me in giving her.
I just want to say thank you, first of all, to Petey for having that much faith in me in reference to nominating me for this position. Ohio's Elections Association started in 1949, and it took to 2026 before a person of color has sat in that seat. So I am humbled every day. And I want to thank every single woman of power that I have heard today. I have taken more notes than you could ever believe, and I'm going to go back home and look at them again. I know that I stand here with women of greatness, power, empathy, and I feel the love in the room, and I am just ever so grateful that I was able to be a part of this. So thank you so much.
All right, y'all. So break time. Say break time. It's not end time. Because guess what? You all know, those who have come to this, that you have the rest of the evening after 5 o'clock. Now, y'all know a lot of conferences we go to that we go into the night, but you all have a break from 5 o'clock. You can sleep, go see the city, not see the city. So that means that I am trusting that you will show up for these breakouts, because it is very, very important that you do. Can I count on you? That wasn't half the room. Can I count on you to show up for 1 hour for the people who are preparing to make sure that you have because we call them solution circles, okay? So we really need you to be there. So Ebony's gonna come up. It is 3:25, and I think the session started at 4. So from 4 to, or is it 4 or 4:15? I thought it was 4:15. Y'all keep throwing me off. Somebody told me 4:15 to 5. Is it 4? Okay, 4 to 5. Okay, tell them where to go.
Okay, good afternoon. We look forward to seeing you from 4 to 5. So Sister Circle 1 is what do we do when our freedom is on the line? That's going to be in the Alexandria room that is on the 2nd floor. So if you take the elevator, when you get off the elevator, you'll be able to find that room. And that is going to be led by Joy Cheney. And that's our Sister Circle 1. Sister Circle 2, Movement Organizing and Resisting Training Session. That's going to be on this floor, Alexandria Ballroom 1. That's going to be moderated. Oh, Arlington Ballroom 1. Also, it's up on the screens. It's going to be moderated by YT Bell. She's over here waving her hand. She's going to facilitate the movement organizing and resistance training. Power Sister Table 3, Power of the Sister Vote in 2026 and beyond is going to be facilitated by our very own Holly Holiday. That is going to be on this floor in Ballroom 2. Next is going to be Gender Justice, What to Do About the Historical Attack on DEIA and the rest of it. That is going to be led by Miss Renee Redwood. And that is going to be in Arlington Ballroom 5. Sister Circle 5, The Benefits and Challenges of AI. That is going to be on this floor in Ballroom 6, and is going to be facilitated by Joycelyn Tate. Okay, Care Matters from Birth to Your Senior Years. That is going to be in this room, and it is going to be facilitated by Gilead Scientists. Oh, sexual health. Sexual health is going to be in this room, and that's a part of from birth to senior years. Sister Circle 7, K through 12 public education, higher education, HBCUs, and Black history under threat. That is going to be facilitated by Dr. Geneva Green. It is going to be in Mount Vernon, thank you, Holly, on the 2nd floor. And last but certainly not least, Circle Global Empowerment Working Group session. So you all are going to continue what you were working on Wednesday. It is going to be led by our very own Salandra and Angela. And that is going to be on the 2nd floor in the Fairfax room. So again, we're going to leave these up for a little bit. So if you forgot, I know it's a lot, take a picture It should also be in your app. So again, see you all again at 4 o'clock. Thank you all.
We run this mother. Yeah. Girls, we run this mother. Yeah. Girls, we run this mother. Yeah. Girls, we run this mother.